Thanks, Terry. Thanks to the Elgin Chamber for asking me to speak again this year. Was this kind of
It is a little hot.
echoing back at us a little bit?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. We have technical difficulties this morning. So, again, thanks to the Chamber for asking me to speak this morning and to update you on the state of the city. First, I want to talk about current conditions within the city. Elgin is far better off than many of the other communities in the state of Illinois, and far better off than the state of Illinois financially. That's what everybody talks about. It's all you've been hearing for the last year is what's going on with the state, what you read about problems in other communities, what's going on in our region. And I kind of focus a little bit more in the Fox Valley and talk to our neighbors. And so a lot you're going to hear about today reflects on what I see, how Elgin compares to the people that are around us. It's important for us to realize that Springfield and Cairo, Illinois are part of the state of Illinois, but our focus in Elgin deals primarily with a geographic area around us. Behind me is an image that talks about the priorities that the City Council has placed and the staff has placed on funding for us and how we deal with our funding. It's extremely important. These things are, some things are within our control, other things are not. And as people get onto the City Council and get experienced in dealing with the city budget, they find out that many things are beyond our control, that these are mandates from federal government and from the state government that we have to follow through with. The 2015 budget process is moving forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the highlights for us this year. One of the things I see is a lot of people that represent the real estate business and realtors and developers within the community. Elgin, again, is a leader in building permits and housing starts in the state of Illinois. Very proud of that. Over 2.5 years that's been a trend. We've had increased activity in spec buildings, speculative buildings, developers and businesses coming to Elgin to build a building without having a tenant. That means they have confidence in what they see within our community, and they see a positive flow here, a positive growth. The growth of the city of Elgin and the people that are moving here for a variety of reasons. When I worked my way through, I was a president of a neighborhood association, worked with Elgin Community Network, and talked about why people move to a neighborhood and choose a specific house. I'm sure all of us could go through and give you a laundry list of the types of homes that we live in. Why do people pick a certain neighborhood, pick a certain house, pick a certain city? It's because of the quality of life that's there, and they're attracted to a variety of things. Those things are important to them. The job of the City of Elgin, the job of a homeowners association, the job of the Elgin Community Network was to make sure that when somebody moved to a neighborhood or moves to a city, that we maintain the standards that allowed them to make that choice. We don't want them to go backwards. Elgin's turning a corner. We have turned a corner. We're not going to go backwards. We're seeing a brighter future here than we've probably seen in 3 or 4 decades. The thing that helps people decide where to go and how to live their life is jobs data. I met with Chris Huckstead with Carol Gieske and talked about housing in Elgin. What makes people pick Elgin? One of the things is the unemployment rate, and they felt that the jobs were improving in our community. This graphic will show you how job data has improved in the city of Elgin compared to national and state levels. We are now equal to the state of Illinois. When I first ran for mayor, I believe our unemployment rate was about 12%. So we've cut that considerably. What I really look at is how do we compare to the communities around us. Aurora has always had a little bit of a lead on us, and so has Naperville, some of the other communities. Well, we've caught up with them. So that's a very, very positive thing for the city of Elgin. Our people are at work. When they do that, provides them with disposable income and allows them to live the lifestyle and to enjoy the quality of life that we hope that we can provide for them in the city of Elgin. We want to maintain a bond rating that is unprecedented in our area. We are in the top 5% bond-rated municipalities in the United States. We have a AAA bond rating from Fitch, AA plus from Standard & Poor's, and that speaks well for us. It allows us to do things and gives us flexibility that other communities may not have. The state of Illinois may not have. It allows us to borrow money. That's one of the discussions that the city manager has brought to the council during this budget season, that we are in a position, we have a low debt service that per capita that allows us to go out and borrow money to do some of the things that we feel are important and to accelerate some of the programs that we feel are of interest and great in demand within our community, such as better streets. And we can do that at a low rate of interest, and it's probably an opportune time for us to do that. We've talked a little bit recently about the drop in oil prices makes the asphalt prices more attractive. That's the advantage of having a strong economy and a strong balance sheet for a municipality. It allows you the flexibility to do the things that will pay you dividends 10 and 20 years down the road. I'm going to read you a bulletin. I have a number of papers up here I have to work my way through. So, this came from Standard & Poor's. It was an unsolicited ratings review of the city of Elgin. They came out when they had some problems with the feds recently, so they came out and, well, we didn't have any bonds going out, but they came out and did a review of the city of Elgin. And they ended up giving us a AA plus rating. And here's what they said, their assessment of the city of Elgin. Adequate economy. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. Very strong budgetary flexibility in terms of available reserves in the general and capital projects funds. Strong budgetary performance. Very strong liquidity in terms of total government cash available to cover debt service and total expenditures. Very strong management conditions and strong financial policies and practices, and very strong debt and contingent liabilities position. That speaks highly of the manager and the staff that puts our budget together, and that speaks highly of the city council. There's a quote here from Heartland Real Estate that talks about Elgin and one of their clients and why they chose Elgin. Elgin's low real estate taxes together with I-90 access at the Randall Road four-way interchange were the factors in the selection of the site. We went through a process a few years ago, 3 years ago to be precise, when I became mayor. I campaigned and said I wanted to diversify our revenue. We were too dependent on property taxes, and it was didn't bode well for us. Our general fund was funded over 40% through property taxes. Our own guidance said that was too high, and it was just because of the inflation of property values at that time, and it put our budget a little bit out of sync. So we diversified our revenue streams and added some additional taxes and lowered the property tax. That's now paying dividends for us. City Council right now is going through our budget process. We're happy to report there are going to be no tax increases. We did not have to cut personnel like many of the communities that are around us that are struggling with their budget. So this year's decision was easy. Now I'm going to play a little bit of a game with you. And this is a holiday season, and for every one of us, just about, I think probably one of our favorite holiday movies was It's a Wonderful Life. And I'd like to look back 3 years ago and just say, what if we hadn't done what we did 3 years ago? And we could have taken an easy road and maintained the status quo and just gone along and not changed a thing. Where would we be today? And the first thing that you see, let's take a look at assessed valuations of properties within our community. And you can see a pretty significant decrease, roughly 25% drop in the assessed valuations. That money would no longer be coming to the city of Elgin. So we would show a deficit in part of our general fund. The next image here, we'll talk about categories. This is across the entire economy of the city of Elgin, and 67% of our property tax comes from residential, and the rest comes from commercial and industrial properties. So it's spread out over everybody. It's a fair way to assess what we're doing. We feel that the residential, we're dependent a little bit too much on residential, but we're seeing more industrial growth, which is a good thing for us. The commercial will follow the residential. That's been one of the pitfalls here for us. When we had the rapid growth 5 or 6 years ago, commercial anticipated homes that didn't come. And now we're starting to see those homes follow along, and the commercial will follow that as well. Riverboat revenues have dropped 32% in the last 5 years. And that's a significant drop for us. I've told this a number of times. When I got on the city council, 10 years ago, the riverboat sent us a check every month for a little over $2 million. $24 million a year. You can see our proposed for 2015, $11.3 million, a 50% decline. So we've had to adapt our budget. We've had to look at different things to do to make ourselves be stable. And it's my belief that in order for appropriate and successful economic development, businesses depend on their local government to be stable. They want the fact that they can depend on us to provide them with the services that they need at a reasonable rate. It's not in our best it's not to anybody's best advantage to be playing ping pong with tax rates and changing the way that we fund our city and our government works. They look, when they move to Elgin, when a business moves to Elgin, they look to move here for decades, not for 1 or 2 years. You can't look at a budget like this and look at a city plan on a 1 or 2 year scope. It's got to look out decades, and that's what our vision for Elgin is. These changes have, in our revenue flows that we brought to us, and if we hadn't done this 3 years ago, it would have led to us this year to be talking about a deficit of about $7.5 to $10 million in our budget. Well, last year, we would have probably had to start to resolve some of those issues to move this forward. We would have seen ourselves in some tough financial straits. We don't have that. We've provided this community with a stable economic platform for which homes can be built and businesses can be profitable and expand. The options facing the City Council would not have been pleasant. Instead, we're looking at zero tax increase and maintaining a stable workforce. The next image talks about where does our money come from. When I talk about a balanced budget, this is about as balanced as you're going to see a budget. Every revenue stream is about 20%. We don't depend on any one. If there's an upset in the economy for any particular reason, it will certainly cause us some difficulties, but it's not going to cause a collapse in our economy. And I believe it was last year I talked about the city of Elgin when I was a boy back in the 1960s, and what happened to a community that depended on one industry to provide a living for the majority of its population. When the Elgin watch factory left this community, it devastated it for almost 3 decades. We're in the public safety business. People talk about running the city of Elgin as a business. Well, we do to a degree. We are public safety. We provide public safety. We provide police, fire, public works, and code enforcement. 92% of our budget is directed towards those types of expenditures. Those are givens for us. We have to provide those things. 8% is in the other category. When people talk about making cuts to a city budget, they have to look at that 8%. And out of that 8%, there might be 1% or less that's available to make some cuts. So we're really doing things that you're starting to get in that 8%, you're starting to really get into some quality of life issues for people. So those are very, very difficult decisions for a council to make. There's not low-hanging fruit here anymore. Where does the money go? 50% of our budget goes out to pay earnings and benefits for our employees. We have wages that we have to pay. We just going through contract negotiations with our unions. We're typically seeing increases in the range of 2 to 3%. I like to work and provide people with at least a 3-year window and let them take a look down the road. And the manager and I have had a number of conversations about this with our unions. We're doing this now with our contractors. We've done it with Waste Management, with their new contract. We're providing them an opportunity to provide us a service at a given cost for 3 to 5 years. That lets them plan for the future and lets us plan for the future. It allows us to put out a budget that we can feel very confident with. I don't like doing things a year at a time. I don't want to come back and talk about the things that we've talked about every year. An example is something as simple as the video service that's provided to us for the mayor's television show and Channel 17. We're in the process now of looking at a contract for them for 3 years. In the past, we did them a year at a time. And every year we talked about the same thing. Nobody knew what was going to be in the future for us. We'd like to make this be something that's going to be a positive for us. Things are pretty good, but there are some clouds on the horizon for us. Healthcare costs for the city of Elgin suffer the same as they do for every business and every person in this room. Our healthcare costs are going up. We anticipate that this is going to almost double, and our costs will almost double from 2007 until the beginning of the Great Recession, until probably 2020. It's a significant cost for us. We talked about that at the budget meeting, at our council meeting last night, about the impact of the Affordable Care Act on the city of Elgin. Estimate is our policies will require us to pay penalties in the range of about $800,000 in the next few years. So those are things that, for us, were not part of our vision 2 or 3 years ago, but now they became part of our vision and part of our plan. We're going to have to plan to move forward with this. We have to comply with what federal law and state law does. So we're going to talk a little bit about unfunded mandates. The next slide talks about increased pension costs for police and fire. 58% increase for police, 68% for fire. Pension costs are going up around the state. We're dedicating some of our reserve funds this year towards reducing our pension costs and putting us in a better position. I feel it's in the best interest of the city of Elgin to look at a 20-year program to how we're going to pay for our pension costs. You have people like me, I'm 67 years old, and draw a pension from the Fox River Water Reclamation District and Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. I'm one of tens of thousands of people that were baby boomers in the United States that are now moving through the workforce and into retirement, and we have to provide pensions for those people. The good news, and maybe not so much, maybe for the younger people here, not so much for me, why am I looking at a 20-year program? I'll be 87 years old if I'm still here. I may not be collecting that pension. So sometime in that 20-year time frame, we're going to see this start to drop. Those pension costs start to decrease a little bit. So we need to start looking forward at that and make sure that we've met our obligations. The Supreme Court is going to rule on the state's proposed budget plan. I don't believe they're going to go backwards and reverse the decision. I believe they're going to find that it's not constitutional, and to look at the pensions of people that are currently retired. The Illinois Policy Institute, a very conservative organization. I met with them a few months ago. We talked about pension and the problems within the state of Illinois, and they used Elgin as an example in a recent posting. And it basically says that Elgin has some problems. We've done a lot of the right things. Their communication to us was that Elgin is a community, they're AAA bond rated, they've done the right things and made the right moves, and they're still having problems. So they recognize the pensions costs as being something that we're going to have to work our way through. They recognize that these are things that are passed to us by the state legislature. And those are things that are unfunded mandates that we will have to deal with. How are we going to pay for these things? How is the city of Elgin in the future going to pay for these pensions? We've changed the way that we look at budgets to a 3-year budget. It allows us the flexibility to adapt to changes that occur, for legislation that occurs, and allows us to react a little bit better. We feel that it's a better opportunity for us to meet the obligations that we have as a city. As part of a growing city, and this is a discussion the manager and I have had, is how do we maintain our personnel? How do we keep the quality of life issues in our city? How do we maintain our safety, our high standard of safety? Elgin, for example, has the second lowest crime rate in the state of Illinois for a major city, after Naperville. So how do we do these things? They cost money. We have great personnel. To have good personnel, you have to pay good personnel. They're going to want benefit programs. How do I justify this, and how do I stand here today and tell you that we have good personnel? Because other people want them. We have chiefs of police that have worked at the city of Elgin that are chiefs of police all over the United States. Many of our neighbors have hired people away from our police department. One was Glenn Theriot, who's going to the village of Sycamore to be the chief of police. We have fire chiefs that are around the state of Illinois and have moved on to other communities and taken that position from our fire department. We have public works people that move on. Miss Carla Persky, standing back by the camera, is going to go to work for the village of Schaumburg in the next week or so, and wish her the best of luck. And the city of Elgin loses our good personnel, but we have to have a system to bring those people back into, to bring new people back into the system. I call it the farm team. It's like a baseball team. You have to have a farm team to bring people up within the city of Elgin and promote them into these positions. Just like any baseball team, if you don't have a good shortstop, you have to go out and look for one. And you trade for one and you bring somebody in to do that job. But we really like to promote from within and use our employees to the best of their abilities and try to find people that are extremely qualified and versatile. The city of Elgin's turned a corner. We are now a city that other communities are looking up to. Elgin's image has improved dramatically because of our visual and performing arts, our low crime, and our quality of life. It will be our task as a council to continue to build on this momentum. I'm going to talk about two things out of the many things that we're doing for economic development within our community, and I think that are important for a city of our size. And we can't make ourselves something that we're not, but we can use the assets that we have to make them better. And arts and entertainment is something I've talked a lot about. Arts and entertainment is more than just a quality of life issue for this community. Arts and entertainment is an economic development engine that can help drive this community forward for the next few decades. We can take advantage of our over 50-year-long history in performing and visual arts to use that to bring businesses and people to our community. Two examples. One is very new. The Fringe Festival was just done this year. It was put together by volunteers with a small grant from the city of Elgin to push it forward. They had over 2,000 people came to the city of Elgin to participate and to stay in Elgin and enjoy the Fringe Festival for 3 days. It generated revenue in downtown restaurants. It brought people to stay in our hotels. It filled some of the art space and some of the art facilities downtown and brought people from other communities to see Elgin for the first time. The Grand Victoria Casino has had a very successful run of concerts at Festival Park. We are now in discussions with the casino to talk about a permanent structure on city property at Festival Park to provide seating undercover for a couple thousand people. What have their concerts meant to the city of Elgin? They filled the downtown restaurants. They average 6,000 to 7,000 people that come to Elgin from other communities, see our town for the first time, and often like what they see. So many of the comments I said, never been to downtown Elgin, we think it's wonderful. Talk to hotel managers, city of Elgin. On the nights that concerts were held, the hotels are booked. Those revenues are transferred back into the city for meals, for hotel stays. Those are some of the things we need to build on. When I met with representatives from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, we've taken a first step along arts and entertainment. The next step is to provide a weekend of entertainment so people are more likely to stay here for 2 days and make this a destination. long-term plan for economic development, and from my viewpoint, it's my job as the mayor and the city's job to provide a foundation under our businesses and our industries to allow them to grow into the future. The things that they need to look down that 20 or 30-year path that they're planning on taking in the city of Elgin. I do a thing with the chamber about once a quarter called the President's Council. Many of you sit at that council table with me. A few months ago, I asked everybody, what can the city of Elgin do to help you be successful? What do you need us to do to help you move forward? For everyone that sat at that table, the answer was the same. We need an educated workforce. I hear it time and time again that we have people that have worked at a business in Elgin for 25, 30, and in one case I went to an anniversary at Elgin Industries, 45 years. Their working force is becoming older. They're starting to move towards retirement age, and we'll flip back to those pensions we talked about. But they need to replace those retiring people with an educated workforce. The city of Elgin and a number of school districts are not-for-profits. The United Way, the Grand Victoria Foundation are working on a thing called alignment for education in the city of Elgin. We want to put people on a track so that we can produce an educated workforce and provide an education for our city that is unparalleled anywhere in the United States. We have 3 goals, pretty simple. 1, we want a child to be able to be ready when they go to kindergarten. We'd like to see them to be able to read by the time they're in 3rd grade, at a 3rd grade level. It's not asking a lot for somebody like me. I thought that was just what they told you to do. Boy, you better be ready at 3rd grade. And it's not that way anymore. We have to accelerate some of the learning curve for these young people. We want to lower the dropout rate so people have an incentive to stay in school and continue their education. We're using as our model Nashville, Tennessee. Their dropout rate when they began their alignment program in the year 2000 was about 50%. They have an extremely high poverty level. Their graduation rate now is almost 88% because of the alignment program. They've given their kids a hope and a future. And what we want to do is the same thing in Elgin. We want to introduce young people in this community to the options that are available to them. Not every child is destined to go to college. Not every child is going to become a college graduate or a teacher. But there are great jobs within this community. We want to introduce them to those jobs and show them what it's like to be a machinist or be a painter or be a plumber and go through an apprenticeship program to offer them those opportunities to get an education and to tailor their education as they get older to reach their goal. Why was it successful in Nashville, Tennessee? Because when kids got to be 14 or 15 years old and they realized that they might not be going to college, they started to give up. They thought there was what's the sense? There was nowhere for me to go. Well, now we've given them a place to go. We've put together a steering committee to help move this forward. It involves leaders from all over the community. One of the most significant things, I guess, for me was a couple, and to show how everybody can be involved in this. Pastor Nat Edmonds and I had a conversation after he attended, and he said, you know, Mayor, he said, if I had seen, and Terry Royers plays right into what your business is, as part of the visuals that we saw in our presentation was a huge turbine and a jet engine, and they had young kids were looking at these engines and talking about being mechanics. He said, Mayor, if somebody had shown me that when I was 18 years old, he said, I may have taken a whole different path in life because I like to do that. And that is something I think that's important to carry back. Any organization, big or small, has their obligation to the community to help move it forward and provide part of the education. I met with Lions Club, and they do the eyeglasses and provide vision assistance for the community. And we talked about health as being part of education. A healthy child is easier to educate. Talked about vision, and I said, well, you guys can help. You guys can become part of this. Even though you're a small group, you can become part of our education effort in the city of Elgin. And a gentleman from Elburn said, Mayor, he said, I'm the regional director for the Lions Clubs in our area. He said, I've got an instrument in my basement that we got from the Lions Club International a few years ago. It's worth over $100,000. It will test a three-year-old child's vision in about 30 or 40 seconds and identify any great vision problems for them and give them a printout for their parents and tell them if they go to need help. And I said, that's a great thing. I said, a child can't learn to read if they can't see. And they can't recognize when you're 3 or 4 years old, you don't know you can't see. You think what you are is normal. After that conversation, and we made the presentation, I made that same statement at our first meeting for alignment. The mayor of Burlington came up to me, and he said, Mayor, I got to tell you. He said, you really struck a nerve with me. He said, I didn't know I couldn't see till I was in the 5th grade. He said, I'm all in. He said, whatever the village of Burlington can do, we will do to help. Those are the kind of things that will move the city of Elgin into the future and give us a vision and allow us to react to what's happening in our local economies and in the state and put Elgin in a position to be successful. I want to thank you for listening to me today. I want to wish everyone a happy holiday season and want to wish everyone a wonderful life. Thank you very much.